2025 according to F1 2020. So we're going to go back, simulate to 2025 and see if this game can accurately predict the future. But in 2020 we would have our first real title fight. It's Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas at Mercedes, and surprisingly they were neck and neck all year. But in the end our champion would be a certain Finn who shocks the system and wins his first driver's title, therefore denying Hamilton his 7th. The Mercedes cars were in a league of their own and the gap was just 22 points by the end, with Valtteri getting 11 wins to Hamilton's 10. The constructors obviously saw Mercedes dominate, but it's Red Bull in second and Ferrari in third. Not off to a great start, Cody's. Ferrari were terrible this year. Oh yeah, and Williams were that bad that they finished behind the new 11th team. So there goes my plan of not interfering with the results. But with that, I think it's time we move to the moves. We start at Haas, where Grosjean would retire. Okay, good prediction. And he would be replaced by George Russell. Okay, what? George Russell has abandoned the Mercedes driver program to join Haas. Incredible. In his place at Williams would be Kimi Räikkönen, Magnussen would go to Alfa Romeo, Giovinazzi would go to Haas, and Latifi would move to Alfa Romeo, with Matsushita joining the grid with Williams. Our first F2 rookie. So that's everything for 2020, now let's see how the future turns out. So in 2021, Racing Point became Aston Martin and Renault became Alpine, so I'm going to refer to them as their real names despite the game still showing the old ones. 2021 was also the year Verstappen took over at the top of F1, and in the game, he started off the season in fine form, taking a win in the first race at Melbourne from Lewis Hamilton. But wait, what is Gasly doing in 3rd place and Kvyat in 4th? AlphaTauri started the season in the same spot they left off in 2020, but now they're capable of podiums? I have no idea why this happened, but it must be a fluke. There's no way AlphaTauri are a top 3 team. Oh, there he is again. Okay, so F1 2020 has predicted Gasly to have a monster 2021, which is exactly what he did in real life, and in the 3rd race of 2021 at Vietnam, he was in 3rd once again. And then just 4 races later, he took victory at Monaco. Sod Verstappen trying to win this season, it's Gasly who could take it to the Mercedes cars. And once again, let me reiterate, AlphaTauri are the 5th, 6th best car in the performance graph? Gasly has no reason to be doing this, but he is. And he's only 86 rated as well. So other shocks in the rest of the seasons were the Aston Martins grabbing their first double podium in Canada, AlphaTauri grabbing a 1-3 in Singapore, this podium in the final race, and Kvyat winning the Russian Grand Prix. Okay, I'm done. How has this happened? Kvyat has won his home race in an AlphaTauri. You cannot make this up. This is season 2. So as for Gasly's title charge, it never really got rolling and Hamilton would grab his 7th title by the end of the season, but he finished 2nd, only 51 points behind Hamilbob. Verstappen started the season off so well but faltered as the junior team take over at the top and finished 2nd in the constructors with Red Bull 4th, even behind Ferrari. What a crazy turnaround from the first season, and as for the moves, well, they're also pretty crazy. We start at Ferrari, where Sebastian Vettel would retire at the end of 2021, leading Max Verstappen to replace him at the Scuderia. Ricciardo would return to Red Bull in his place, with Albon moving to Alpine, Kvyat returning to Red Bull, and Perez joining AlphaTauri. And finally, Kimi would carry on past 2021 and joined Aston Martin as De Vries entered the grid with Williams. But without further ado, let's see how 2022 and the new regulations affect the grid. The first race of the new regulation changes got started in odd circumstances as Pierre Gasly won the opening round in Australia. And it wasn't a fluke because he'd win the 2nd race in Bahrain. And the Red Bull organisation was dominating in race 3 because Daniel Ricciardo won in Vietnam, with Albon in 2nd, Gasly 3rd, Verstappen 4th and Kvyat 5th. That's 5 Red Bull Academy products in the top 5. It's so over for the sport. Gasly would win the Dutch Grand Prix in an AlphaTauri 1-2, he'd win the French Grand Prix, and he'd also win the Season 3 title by over 140 points. His teammate would get his first win in the sport in Hungary, and his old teammate Kvyat would win again in Russia to cap off another weird season. And through all of this, AlphaTauri still aren't the best car. I just can't get my head around why Gasly is so good. AlphaTauri take home 1st place in the constructors as expected, and that's all to write home about because there would be no transfers for 2023. Very strange. And with there being no regulation changes, he's probably going to dominate the next season as well. Hallelujah. So, Season 4, also known as 2023. Gasly got straight to business in round 1 as he once again won, but then it would be Bottas in Bahrain and Kvyat in Vietnam. Then a few rounds later in Spain, Hamilton would get back on the top step. This season was looking a bit more open than last, but despite the gap being significantly less than last season, Gasly still won out by nearly 60 points, securing his 2nd driver's title for the sister team and giving them another constructors title, although this one was very close. So I think it's time to talk about the moves, because there are some this time around. Daniel Ricciardo would retire at the end of the season and grab the podium on his final start in a Red Bull 1-2-3-4, with none other than the GOAT Nicholas Latifi joining in his place. De Vries would be heading to Alfa Romeo, who were returning to the Sauber name in 2024, Stroll would return to Williams, Matsushita joined Aston Martin, and Louis Gelatraz went to Williams. Bet he didn't expect to hear that name today. Season 5 now, and we've got Nicholas Latifi in a front running car, while Mercedes still have Bottas and Hamilton. Quite the contrast between the two teams. So let's get into the races, and what a start to the season. A Nicholas Latifi podium. If we're going off the first race, Red Bull shouldn't be too far off the AlphaTauris, who have now become V-Carb. So you're telling me a team called Visa Cash App Racing Bulls is currently leading the drivers and team standings?
The game's gone.
The game's gone.
The game's gone. Game's gone.
It's never been more gone. But it gets even more gone because 2 races later, Nicholas Latifi won his first race in Vietnam. The title fight is on. In Monaco, we would get an incredible race as Verstappen would win from 15th on the grid and Latifi would rise to 2nd from 10th on the grid. Considering they only did 1 stop, who knows what happened here. Whatever it was, it had to have been better than the real version of the 2024 race. We'd have more weird winners, as in France, Perez would dominate in a V-Carb 1-2 with Latifi in 3rd. In Italy, Ocon would grab his first podium of the sim, and Norris in 3rd had gone from 17th to 3rd in this one. But crucially, Gasly was winning races, and thanks to this, he would win his 3rd title by 133 points to former teammate Kvyat, with Perez ahead of Latifi in the standings. So I lied to you, Latifi did not do a good job of challenging for the title, and Red Bull have never been more dominant. So going into the last year, F1 2020 has correctly predicted 0 title winners. As for the constructors, it's obvious who won, but comparing the rest of the grid to the real life championship, there's really not much it's gotten right. First off, spoiler alert, F1 2019 managed to predict McLaren's rise to the top of the sport in 2024 and 2025, but here, they're still a midfield team, despite being better in real life 2020 than 2019. Alpine are a bit higher than they were in 2024, and Aston have 0 points in 9th place. Not looking good. So let's see if the moves can rescue it in 2025. We start off strong as Bottas would retire at the end of 2024, being replaced by Charles Leclerc. Well, I guess it's once again predicted Leclerc and Hamilton to be teammates in 2025, but Mercedes is a bit more normal than Alfa Romeo. But obviously, it's still wrong. And instead of going to Ferrari, Lewis is staying loyal to Mercedes, and Lando Norris is going to Ferrari instead. Magnussen would return to McLaren after 10 years away, and Matsushita would head to Sauber, with Luca Giotto joining the grid with Aston Martin. So let's see what F1 2020 can predict in the final season of the sim. So we start off season 6 with a bit of a surprise. A race that had been dominated by Gasly for the past few years was now won by Kvyat. Could this be the start of his championship challenge? Well, he had made a good start as Kvyat won the next 2 races, with Gasly only coming 4th twice. Latifi would throw a spanner in the works by winning round 4 in China, but Kvyat would continue to get good results, getting on the podium all the way up to round 8 at Baku. There he would finish 12th as Alex Albon would win in the Alpine. What a strange winner, and what an absolutely catastrophically terrible prediction this is. Oh, and it gets worse. Look at the podium. What are Magnussen and Ocon doing there? After another dodgy race in Canada, Kvyat would score podiums more sporadically, grabbing 2nd in France and then 9th and 6th in the next 2 races. In that time, Alex Albon won his 2nd race of the season at his semi-home track, Silverstone. We haven't actually established who Kvyat is fighting in this championship, but take a look at the standings after Austria. The top 4 is separated by 14 points. Into Belgium, Albon would win again, this time ahead of Gasly, who gets back on the podium, with Kvyat 6th. After a really consistent start to the season, he's really starting to falter, and in Singapore, we got a new winner as Lando Norris won from Kvyat and Latifi by 0.4 of a second. The following race would be Russia, and when it mattered most, Kvyat took the victory, and then he won the following race in Japan. After a rough middle part of the season, he was back, and after the penultimate round in Brazil, which he won, the standings look like this. Latifi had fallen off a cliff from the previous standing screenshot, mainly because he was too busy trying to finish 10th. Verstappen was 61 points back after only getting 2 podiums in the previous 8 rounds, and Leclerc was the only person who could mathematically beat Daniil. He would need to win, and Kvyat would have to DNF, and considering literally no one has DNF'd in this entire sim, Charles is going to need a miracle. But he didn't get the luck, as Kvyat finished 3rd and subsequently won the 2025 driver's title. What the fuck are we doing? This is the same year that McLaren are currently dominating, and you're going to tell me that F1 2020 thinks Daniel Kvyat is going to win the title. The world's gone mad. Who knew the games that only came out a year apart from each other could have such different ideas of how the future would pan out? On one side, we had Verstappen dominating 2023 just like he did in real life, and on the other hand, we had Gasly winning 3 titles, Red Bull being dominated by their sister team, and Lewis Hamilton staying loyal to Mercedes. It made for an incredible results table though. I'd highly recommend pausing and taking a look at this because it's wild. But as for the final constructors table, it has Red Bull on top, Ferrari in second, AlphaTauri receding back into the midfield, and McLaren in 6th. Well done F1 2020. So that was that. Some insane predictions in here, and probably the weirdest F1 sim I've ever seen. But if you want to see the madness that was the 2019 version of this video, it's on screen now for you to check out.